5 seconds. Holmgren shoots the flush and score! The Flyers tie it with 2.8 seconds remaining. Excellent for them. So the Penguins have had leads of 2-0. 3-1. Now Couturier ties it at 5. Sean Couturier with his second goal of the night.
Hey everybody, it's Isaiah with the O&B Puckcast, brought to you by PhillySportsNetwork.com. And I'm here with my partner, Chef B, not with us tonight. He's on another drinking binge, I think. But I am here with my other partner, courtesy of PhillyIsFlyer.com. Dan, the Flyer fan. Dan Ash, how are you, man?
Doing pretty good, I guess. Hanging in there after all this juicy news coming out of Flyers camp.
Oh, yeah. Well, Chef couldn't make it today because of that binge, like I said. But we do have a returning contributor, someone who hasn't been with us for a while, and we're glad to have him back from PhillySportsNetwork.com. Jamey Baskow, how are you?
I'm doing great. And you know what? It's an honor to be with you and Dan today. Sucks that Chef is out, but I'm honored to be in front of your fans, and just want to say thank you for having me on. And, you know, hopefully I could probably do some insight here and steer the Flyers Twitter and Facebook and social media or whatever in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely be making use of your inside access. That's for sure. Jamey is on site for a lot of this stuff. So it's not just we're kind of reading somebody else. We do some of that as well, but also Jamey does have that access, as we said, and that's very, very important. Gentlemen, let's get right to it. Breaking news. Today, the Flyers make a couple cuts, and they seem to surprise people. The Flyers moved on today and sent down Nick Obey-Kubel, as he prefers to be called, and Philippe Myers, which surprised a lot of people. Dan, you want to give us some feedback about when you heard that? Those two guys going and maybe some other people that are still around.
Yeah, you know, I'm not overly surprised about Obey-Kubel. I think he did have a good camp, but, you know, I think there is I would rather have him in the AHL at a higher in a higher ranking in the depth chart rather than him being a fourth line player this season if he can get a little more experience in the AHL. Myers, I'm not so surprised as much as I am disappointed. I think that we all kind of knew that this was probably going to be the case sooner or later, but now that he's sent down, it means that the Flyers are sticking with their same old veteran presence defenseman. So I don't really know what to make of them moving forward. You know, some of the names that are still left, you know, the Carson Torinsky somewhere. Mark Friedman is still up for some reason, and you know, I don't know what the cuts left are going to make, but, you know, guys like Corbin Knight could still potentially make the roster. He seems to be in Hack's good graces over the last game or two. So let's see what happens in the next preseason game and next week before the season starts.
Yeah, a couple more games to go here. They're scheduled Jamey versus the Rangers on Thursday, and then finally at Boston on Saturday. And that's it. They have some decisions to make. You know, Jamey, I was thinking Myers, we've seen Mikhail Vorobiev, right? I call him Couturier already because he's just really been so smart with the puck. I don't think Myers was as convincing as Vorobiev was, and I think that's kind of why they wanted to get him more seasoning. Maybe he could have been a little bit better with his reads, maybe handled the puck a little bit cleaner. What say you?
I say the only thing that shocked me about the Myers is that how Friedman outplayed Myers. and why wasn't Friedman sent down over Myers. But you are correct in the sense that Myers was sloppy with the puck in the previous 2 preseason games. He was much better last night with the puck, but he had that critical turnover, but I'm not going to, that's here nor there. I mean, everybody turned the puck over last night, so you can't really blame him. But I just think Myers has to. I think he played a lot of games, and I think it caught up to him. In camp, he looked phenomenal. He looked great. Rookie camp. I mean, all these camps he's done great. I just think the amount of games caught up, and that's what the sloppiness with the puck was. And I think what it boils down to wasn't so much the sloppiness with the puck, points. He didn't put up the points, and I think that's what the Flyers are looking for. I think they wanted him to put up the points. So with him getting sent down to Lehigh, they're going to. I'm pretty sure a conversation was had with him, Hextall and Hackstall, together saying put up the points and we'll call you up. I mean, we sort of knew with Anik playing last night and being ahead of schedule that the writing was on the wall for Philip Myers. But I think if he were to put up the points, I think that Robert Hagg could have, been at least benched or could have bumped, Christian Folan elsewhere. But he didn't put up the points.
Yeah, I don't know about that, honestly. I think the Flyers kind of err on the side of, just be clean in your own zone. Don't make things worse by trying to do too much. And I think there was a little bit of that with Myers. Also, he got caught flat-footed a lot. I remember in the Islander game and the Ranger game. And I'm not knocking him. Overall, I find him still to be a very impressive prospect. But if he cleans up that stuff, Dan, I think he's definitely somebody we could see later in the year.
Yeah, I was just talking about it on Twitter before we got on here. I don't know if they're going to call him up just out of the blue. I think it is going to take an injury before we see him again this season. But, given the injury record thus far, just in the preseason, who knows who could go down in the next couple weeks.
Yeah. I don't want to ignore the elephant in the room. And the big issue facing the Flyers this year, God, I hate to get into this, but because I went back and forth with people. Gents, it's Gritty, the mascot. I have to talk about this. Now, actually, I've never seen anything so silly in my life. We were talking before we went on the air. It's just a mascot, big deal. So I can't help but comment that some people are really crazy in their responses. One guy is like 44 years old, and he's saying that Gritty was such a bad mascot. It was something like it was one of the worst days of his life. And I'm like, are we on planet Earth? Where is Clot 2? I mean, what the hell is going on? I just said something, I don't know, like if that's one of your worst days, one of the worst days of your life, and you're 44, somebody pulled the emotional pin on your grenade a long time ago. I mean, just get out of town. Gritty, it's a mascot. It's fun. If you don't like it, ignore him, But no, we got to talk about the goaltending situation. Jamey, I got to take Ron Hextall to task for this whole scenario. He had 5 guys. He had quantity. Not only did he not have real quality, he had a lot of players that either were coming off of surgery, had very little playing time because they came off of surgery the prior year, or had very little NHL experience. Especially with Nuvi, just move on and look where we're at right now. So much so that you have Bill Meltzer saying, and let me just take this from his tweet. I want to thank Bill. I think it is incumbent on Hexon to address goaltending by opening night. We'll say this again. Carter Hart cannot be the Flyers' option right now. It's too important to put him in position to succeed ASAP. And that front-end part can't be rushed. Even Carey Price took time in the NHL. We'll get to the merits of Carter Hart being here, starting out here in a moment. But just the whole situation, Jamey, your comments.
Well, I just want to reiterate back to Myers will be an NHL player. He is a beast. And I didn't want people to think that I did not think that he wasn't he's an NHL player. But in regards to the goaltending situation, it's funny. Bill and I had this conversation the first day of training camp in the press box, and Bill and I both thought that the goaltending conundrum, when everybody was healthy at that time, was unsettled, and that the Flyers would look to, make a move, whether it be sending either a player down for waivers or trying to make a trade. I want to say that Hexie tried to make a trade with Neuwirth, but didn't get any bites. I mean, I think his hand was I think he wanted to trade him to Calgary, to tell you the truth, but Calgary was set on their, young, netminders down there. But in terms of this goaltending situation that we're in now, it's easy to point the finger at Hextall. And, yeah, he does shoulder, some of the blame. We knew the history problems, the injury history problems with Michael Neuwirth, and re-upping him when he didn't have to. I've seen that, and we all know that. He could have addressed it in the offseason with maybe, Lehner or making a trade for, a Craig Anderson. I would like to see Anderson here. Would you want a Yaroslav Halak? And right now, the goaltending options really aren't there right now. I mean, you have Steve Mason, who I know Dan is going to love and stuff, but with the way Steve Mason has departed, do you risk bringing him back, with what was said with him in the locker room and stuff?
Well, let me cut in. Let me cut in there because, listen, Steve Mason burned his bridges. Everybody knows it. We talked about it last year. I reported what Wayne Fish had said on Sirius XM NHL radio. So that's a slam dunk. And then the way he left with there's no such thing as having two goaltenders. And listen, both parties right now lack leverage, are in compromised positions. Mason doesn't have a job, needs a job. If he can swallow his pride and the Flyers can say, listen, you want to revive your career, we need somebody, we can get you 40 games, whatever. I mean, right. I'd be fine with that. He's the best option out there.
He is a solid option. He honestly, and that was one I was going to, obviously, that's why I brought him up. But he is one that I would look at. I mean, he has durability, and the guy. I mean, look at he had a pretty good Flyers career here. There's no making a mistake. There's no hitting around it. I know it was kind of abnormal him letting in, some soft goals, here and there, and stuff of that nature. But he had a pretty solid, Flyers career. The other goaltender is Kari Lehtonen. I don't know what to make of Lehtonen at this time. I mean, once he was a high, a praised goaltender out of Dallas, or do you wait on the waiver wire for a Calvin Pickard or a Curtis McEnany? In that case, if they wait for the waiver wire, I say just run with Hart or Stolarz. And the reason I say it is because Lyon will be back, that second week of the season. But picking up a goaltender, a stopgap goaltender at that, what would McEnany do, or what would or what would a Pickard do?
Well,
here are they better than Elliott?
Yeah,
I'm not so sure. Elliott took us. Make no mistake, when he was healthy last year, he was on the verge of being the first half MVP. Last year, Brian Elliott. I mean, he put together a really, really good first half. He really, put the Flyers on his back, aside from G, and stuff. But Brian Elliott was that guy, and Coots. But Brian Elliott was phenomenal, in the first half last year. And if he could get back to that form, we're in good shape. But the question is where are we?
Yeah.
Do I want Hart up right now?
But Jamey,
I'm hesitant.
Let me
I'm going to be honest.
Chime in here. Let me chime in. No, the problem is we don't know what Brian Elliott is coming off of 2 surgeries. And I have no problem with Curtis McElhinney. If you look at his numbers behind a not so great defense in Toronto, they're pretty decent. He's in like 9-15 range. All we need is 30 games. I mean, the gamble, and let me go to Dan. The gamble is if we could just get Elliott over the finish line and maybe bring in a guy like McElhinney, it doesn't have to be great. We just dump Nuvi, make an injury settlement, whatever we have to do, and move on. And then maybe Carter Hart has 40 games or 50 games to see if he's ready to be an NHL goalie.
Yeah, I mean, this whole situation is a freaking disaster. There's no other way to put it. You got 4 guys that all have an injury history, 2 of which are coming off major surgery, and then you got Carter Hart, who's never played a professional game in his life. What do you do? I mean, right now going in, I still think you should put Carter Hart in the AHL to at least start the season. There's no reason to feed this kid to the Wolves right away. He has looked at least above average during preseason. But again, they were playing the Islanders, and they're pretty much an AHL team themselves these days. We were talking about before we started the show that, the Flyers' first couple of games are against the Sharks and the Golden Knights. He can stop a couple AHLers and the Islanders, but can he go out there and can he be just as solid against somebody like the Golden Knights? Maybe he can, but do you want to risk it? I wouldn't. But,
I agree. I mean, these are practice games. I don't know how many times we have to be fooled by these games. Thomas Heika, he's going to become a good scorer. All these exhibition game heroes, and that's not, to my opinion, of course, it's not even AHL level play. And we're making big judgments about a lot of players. And all we can tell is someone has promise. To put them, a guy like Hart who's never been a pro, and just put him in that situation where the moment might be too big for him right now, for everything we've been through over the last 30 years since Hextall in '89, I just think it's really a bad gamble. This is why I'm so hard on Hextall on this. He had to know with all this mess. Let me just mention something, and Jamie, I'll turn to you. People have to go to Broad Street Hockey and read John Sequela's article about this situation, because he does such a good job. We were talking about it on Twitter, and it just lays it all out. If your grand plan is to finally solve this problem, Jamie, you got to have a clearer path so that Hart can be sheltered. And what we have is really a veritable minefield.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Listen, I wasn't confident in Michael Neuwirth anyway, so that was a very good article by Jay Sack from Broad Street Hockey. I think it has blown up in Hextall's face, and I think he's facing that today. In the same token, when you look at it, Hextall, he definitely knew about Brian Elliott. He knew about Neuwirth. The one thing he didn't know was, about Alex Lyon, and I think that's where his plan sort of got, screwed, I think, because he last year he mentioned Alex Lyon in a conversation about Stolarz that had nothing to do with Alex Lyon at all. So he was very high on Alex Lyon from the get-go in a conference call to the media last year.
Right.
So that was before the season started. So I think that he had in the back of his mind, okay, if Brian Elliott isn't healthy, Alex Lyon has proven that he could go in and maybe, not be a starter for a length of time, because Alex Lyon didn't prove that last year, but he can hold the fort until B gets healthy or B is back, like a Neuwirth, because Neuwirth, being out a week or an Elliott, if Elliott wasn't healthy to start the season, and they see how he plays against Vegas, because I think Elliott's our starter right now, but so I'll ping him in as a start. Like if Elliott has a bad game, then they'll put in Alex Lyon against Colorado. This plan backfired, I think, with the Alex Lyon injury, and it should have been addressed, in the off season, but we're here right now. I trust Hextall. I really do. In whatever, he was a former goaltender. To me, he's the sixth best player for the Flyers that relates his skates up for a reason. He knows the position the best, and if he runs with Hart, then I'm happy. Let's run with him. If he runs with Stolarz, run with him. I feel as though that Brian Elliott is a starter, regardless. And I know from the comments yesterday, it doesn't hint as that, from what Hextall said to Sam Carchidi and whatnot. But I think that the more time Elliott's going to see in these next two games, you're going to see a heavy load from Brian Elliott for Vegas. But
they got to break him in too, though. We learned last year he wasn't ready, ran him into the ground, and he was god awful. If he can't do any back-to-backs right now, you're going to have to play Stolarz. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to come down on you. I'm so frustrated that you're reporting, by the way, and you said it casually, but we were talking before we went on. You're reporting that Alex Lyon should be back from his injury and able to go on a conditioning assignment in the AHL next week? Jamie?
Okay.
All right. So we temporarily lost Jamey, and we think he'll come back. It's the wide world of space out there, and we just never know how people float away into the next galaxy. But that's weird. But I'm sure it's not Jamey's fault that he has drifted away. But Jamey, if you can hear us, we can't hear you. Call us back, and we'll reconnect. Yeah, it's just really frustrating, Dan. I just some people are frustrated that we lost Dannik Martel to Tampa, and apparently they have a grand plan for him. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah, I saw he's going to fit right into their system, and he's going to be the next Tyler Johnson or whatever. You know, I do think that he may provide something for a bottom six of an NHL team, and Tampa could obviously use his offensive abilities, but I don't think he's going to be the next Tyler Seguin or whatever that's going to move to a different team and become, you know, a superstar. But, yeah, no, it is what it is, and I don't think that it was a huge loss overall for the Flyers. I don't think he had much of a future here, but maybe I would like to see him prosper in Tampa, but I don't think we're going to be hearing a whole lot of him.
Yeah, I think with Martel, I think about a guy who was a little bit one-dimensional, didn't bring other elements. He couldn't break into our top six. Sure, he could definitely come in, give us a lot of speed. He has some scoring ability, but he would get swallowed up in the NHL. He hasn't really adapted quite yet, which doesn't mean he, at some point, given a better opportunity with a particular plan in place, that he couldn't prosper in a situation where Tampa can surround him with guys that play a lot like the way he does, only, you know, at an elevated level. So we wish the best to Dannik Martel. And Jamey, I think you've rejoined us.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I live in the woods, so I got to find that, you know, right spot. And obviously I found it. So hello.
Oh, hi. Yeah. Welcome back. Did you see Bryzgalov out there?
Yeah, I saw him coming down from space. And
okay.
You know what? I think he's the new Flyers mascot. Bryzgalov in the space suit.
Yeah, well, I can't go there. I was going to say, if you just see him, ask him if he has anything left. But yeah, so we moved.
I think he's gritty.
Yeah, he's gritty. All right. Yeah. And Dannik Martel, we were just talking. He's not here, maybe because he wasn't gritty enough. But no, I wish him all the best. And he just didn't really have a future here. Sometimes a player with a certain role in a given situation can really make a difference. We wish him all the best. But Dan, I want to go to you real fast. So we move on from Obe, Kubel, and Myers. Who is left on the Flyers that might surprise people that could make the team? And we know that waiver exemption is a factor in this as well.
Well, you know, I think Vorobiev at this point is a lock to make the team. I would be absolutely stunned if he got sent down at this point. But the players, I mean, you got Torinsky, Friedman, Stolarz, Lyon, Knight, Goalborn are kind of the ones that are on the wire. The only waiver-exempt players as of right now are Torinsky, Vorobiev, and Friedman. So, you know, Goalborn, Knight, Lyon, and Stolarz will all have to go through waivers. So, you know, my guess is Goalborn and Knight would clear, and they will probably be sent down. At least Goalborn will. Hack does seem to like Corbin Knight because he played for him at North Dakota. So, hey, there's a surprise. It's going to be the next Vandeveldy. Torinsky, I don't really know what to make of him. I think that he does have what it takes to be a bottom six player at the NHL level. I'm not sure he's ready yet. But the fact that he has hung around this long could be encouraging. But, you know, I don't know if anybody else really sticks around besides Vorobiev.
Yeah, I think Corbin Knight has a real chance. Because if they look at Corbin Knight and you compare him to Laterra and Weiss. Now think about this. And Jamey, maybe you want to chime in. Corbin Knight gives you more hockey smarts than Weiss. Probably about as much speed. And certainly Corbin Knight is a very good penalty killer who has superior lateral mobility, which would help him in that particular role for the Flyers. And I think they're really strongly considering him.
Yeah, I do too. He wouldn't be here if they weren't strongly considering him. But I will tell you, with him playing with Lawton, you know, in Raffle last night, he looked actually pretty good. I think that was one of the more consistent lines of the night, to tell you the truth, an underrated line. And Lawton has looked really good on the wing here, and I would think I'd keep Lawton on the wing for that matter. That's just a side combo there. But I think Knight has a really good chance at pushing Laterra out. And if I'm one, I think Laterra, finds his way to the AHL. I've been saying that, and I've said it in the off season. I think Knight could push him out. And it has nothing to do with him being from University of North Dakota. It's just he has more skill with the puck. He's a little quicker than Laterra, and he plays a really good PK, which Laterra does too. Laterra does play well in the PK, but Knight could push the puck more. And I think that's what the Flyers are looking for, is a player to drive. Can Laterra do that? Last year in the playoffs, he did, to his credit. But can he do it consistently? I think Knight has a shot. Of course, Vorobiev is a lock. I think at this point he seals up the 3C, and I think it's between Knight and Laterra are battling, for that the fourth line wing there, because I think that goes to Jordan Will as a fourth line center, but that's just me. But so I think it's Knight and Laterra, battling.
Yeah, I mean, if Dan, I mean, I can live with Corbin Knight if Yuri Laterra's gone or Dale Weiss is gone. I mean, especially you got to think Laterra's out because he's got on the last year of the contract.
I wouldn't trust them moving on from Laterra at all. That was something I would need to see to believe. It is possible that he could take less games than he did last season, but I think old habits die hard, and we have not seen the last of Yuri Laterra.
I don't know. I mean, this is the same organization that had AMAC in the minors for a whole year. So
yeah,
I think it's very possible, and the PK is crying out for some different personnel.
Yep.
But gentlemen, I just want to mention, I was listening to Anthony Sanfilippo on a Crossing Broad podcast, and he was talking about the penalty kill. And one of the observations he made when he interviewed the Flyers and was getting some insight about what happened last year was, I think it was in the 75% range. What was there, 29th last year, the penalty kill?
Yeah.
And he said that the Flyers felt like they were too aggressive at the start of the year and too passive late. And they've made the PK a big priority. They've looked at it from every angle. They're evaluating personnel and everything, and they have extensively refined it, and they want to strike the right balance with their penalty kill systems. And I think that is one of the reasons I think we're going to see a change, and maybe guys like Laterra, at least one of those guys, is probably going to go. But, you might want to check out Anthony Sanfilippo, Crossing Broad.
I think it's kind of odd that Dale Weiss played the PK yesterday. So to me, that sends a message that I personally think they're trying to move on from Laterra. That's what I grabbed yesterday.
That could be. We'll find out what the next two games bring. Does Mark Friedman have any chance to make this team?
No, absolutely not. But Myers is better than Friedman. If anybody were to make it would have been Myers over Friedman. I just think, they're trying to give – I don't know what they're trying to do with Friedman.
I think they want to probably reward him for having a pretty good camp. He's not really been that noticeable, but sometimes with certain defensemen, the Flyers like that. In other words, you don't notice him for anything really that good, but you really don't notice him for anything bad either. And sometimes you have to start there. I don't know what the numbers, the metrics are on him this exhibition season, but yeah, I think they're just rewarding him. I think he will find his way back to the Phantoms, and he's still a prospect. You mentioned Dan earlier, Chwerinsky. I think he's going to play in the NHL. I think it would be preferable for him to get more time in the AHL, but he could be a call-up. I don't think there's any question that if I think he scored 45 goals in the juniors. Was it Calgary Hitmen?
Kelowna Rockets. Okay. And he really made a big leap in his progress. And I know Dan Silver was talking about that. And he's a big favorite of Dan's. And I agree. I see something with him
that he should play in the league, and he's 20 years old. He's not going to be a big scorer in the NHL, but I think as the Weisses and the Leterres are weeded out, Chorinsky is a guy who's going to take their place. We're not going to have complaints about these veterans that are high paid and not worth it.
Speed's the name of the game. You got speed. You look at Dannik Martel. He solely got selected because of his speed. And, you look at Carson Chorinsky. He's got speed. Speed is the new NHL.
And he's got size, too. And he's not afraid to throw his body around.
Exactly. He would. I mean, he had 73 points for Kelowna last year. He had 45. He potted 45 with 20. Chipped in 28 assists.
Yeah. I'm looking at that right here. Only
he
16,
had
games.
To me, if anybody had a really good camp, it was definitely Carson. Because honestly, I didn't even have him pinged in to even battle for a position spot. So I am quite surprised at Carson. Not saying he wouldn't be an NHLer eventually, but to blossom this soon was a shock. I think it's been a great camp for Flyers prospects. I mean, I know we talk about the goaltending conundrum, and Alex Lyon will return the second week. That's when he's pinged to return, to NHL action is the second week. That's the fourth week, and that would be the start of the fifth week. So he was out 4 weeks.
Right.
But, I'm so surprised at these Flyers prospects in camp, and talking with them and being around them. They even Vorobiev, Charlie O'Connor, and myself were standing next to each other the first day of rookie camp, and we're looking over at Misha interacting, with other prospects, and that was never seen before. And that was one of his Achilles heels, was he didn't want to learn the English language. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but he refused to try to learn it. And, you look at him now and, man.
So his English has really improved?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say, it's great or whatnot, but he could, he could understand a tidbit here and there. And it's just him just being happy in that locker room the first day of rookie camp. I was surprised. Because he's one to just mind by himself, but you look at him interacting, we were surprised.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent, because I know that's something Rubtsov is dealing with right now, and that could go a long way to determining, Dan, what German Rubtsov, who showed a little spunk in these, I guess against the Rangers especially, your impressions, even though he's been sent down, it was a positive thing to see more out of Rubtsov than we had seen before.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go off what Jamey said. I think overall a vast majority of the prospects looked very, very good during the preseason and camp. And Rubtsov, I think, is kind of a bit of a surprise. I think a lot of people were starting to write him off towards the end of last year. And, we've talked about it over the summer on a couple different shows, but I don't know what to make of him yet. I think this is his kind of first flash of brilliance to this point, but where his future goes from here, I don't know. But he definitely looked for the first time like he was going to take a bit of a step forward.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It wasn't dramatic, but he was more assertive. He went into the dirty areas of the ice, which he seemed to be hesitant to do in the past. He seemed to be really kind of happy with making sure that he had the defensive part of his game covered and he wasn't caught on a break going the other way. But he's got more talent than that. It's good to see him utilize that a little bit. And gentlemen, Jamey, let me go to you. I guess maybe it's a time in this show we want to kind of predict what the lines are going to look like. And so far, it looks like, depending, before we do that, can you give us some updates on Couturier and Wayne Simmons? Are we going to see them tomorrow night or in Boston on Saturday?
No, I think you more or less see them Saturday. Couturier mentioned on the first day of camp that the Flyers were very precautious with him, and that pissed off Couturier. Couturier wanted to be, let go, right away, for contact. And he was like, I understand where the Flyers are, and they're being very cautious. And the only thing he had to get used to was that knee brace. Now, he's sore, so the Flyers are going to be cautious with him. I personally don't think he's going to play tomorrow. I can see him playing on Saturday, and the same thing goes for Simmons. I see him Saturday, too. Simmons is 100%, and, and we'll take it as that. That's according to the Flyers anyway. And they're just being overly cautious with both players, rightfully so. Because let's be honest, both of those players are very important to this team. Whether it be, on ice or off ice, both of them are equally as important on the ice and off ice in that locker room. And, that top line will flourish with Couturier. And you think a minus a Couturier, then what? I tell you, the lines would be an influx, and you take away to me, a depleted position in the Flyer system right now is right wing. And losing Wayne Simmons, for a lengthy portion of the season, that would hinder our right wing there. You'd have to plug in people that may not be able to play on the wing because not everybody. I mean, yeah, we have prospects that can play on the wing, but would they flourish under that position? And let's play them at the position that they're, most comfortable in playing at.
Right.
And to me, that's why Wheel is important, and that's why Raffle's important, and you cannot waive either of them because if, God forbid, Wayne Simmons gets hurt, the wing is short, and both players can fill in on the wing.
Well, Dan, I think Jamey makes some good points there, but I think by midseason, some of the younger players, if they come through and, realize some of the promise, we might be singing a different tune, and we might be able to absorb injuries a little bit better with guys like Nico Obekubel and even Carson Chwerinsky, like we mentioned earlier. So we'll have to see how that works out.
Yeah, we kind of touched upon it during the last episode about the depth at forward, and they already sent down Obekubel. They have Chwerinsky. We've been talked about a couple of times on this episode. I don't know. I think they have a very versatile team right now. I think there are a lot of players that can kind of play either up or down the lineup. Konechny is penciled in pretty much on the third line right now with Vorobiev and Lindblom, which I think is going to be a pretty solid line that puts Simmons on the top line with Giroux and Couturier, which I don't know how that's going to work out, but it should be interesting. And obviously the second line, the line that everybody's been talking about, the Nolan Patrick, Jake Voracek, and James Arinsdijk line, should be the solid powerhouse line moving forward. So I think there's a lot of talent from this team. I think scoring should not be a huge issue. I think keeping the puck out of our own net should be the biggest concern for the upcoming future.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think the first three lines are kind of set as long as Vorobiev is in there. I think he's earned a spot, even though, like I said earlier, these are practice games, but his details are so good, Jamey. He just knows where to put the puck. And even if it doesn't generate a lot of offense, he brings more speed, a little more subtle physicality, and certainly should be an upgrade on Val Filppula from last year.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. I mean, his vision of the ice is, off the charts, and we're seeing that. I mean, he's not afraid to do that cross-ice pass, crisp to the tape. When was the last time we saw that? To the tape. I mean, we see cross-ice passes from, no offense, Jake Voracek, who was very good last year, and I expect a good season again from him. And sometimes it ends up in a turnover, but Misha, it doesn't end up that way. What I wanted to say is that his penalty killing is phenomenal. I mean, when was the last time we saw a guy poke check somebody at the blue line, stand somebody up, and poke check him at the blue line, steal the puck, and take the puck off the other ice?
Yeah, like a defenseman. Yeah.
I mean, it is great to see. It is a breath of fresh air, seeing him out there. And that is a part of the game that shocks me the most. I didn't know he was that good of a penalty killer. I always thought he was a decent penalty killer, but he's turned out to be, and I know it's preseason and stuff, but he looks like a very good penalty killer. Just him having that confidence, you can see it in his offensive game, and it'll correlate to his line, on the third line there, because I think he wins the third line center spot, and I think he's shorted, and I think he's a lock. He is one lock for the Flyers, and if they sent him down, Lord have mercy. You thought Flyers Twitter was bad with the goaltending conundrum? Imagine what you see with Vorobiev being sent down. Jeez.
Yeah.
Gritty might not even have a home afterwards.
Yeah, Gritty might not be able to get in the building. No, I think Vorobiev, the only thing I would say about Vorobiev was, someone mentioned about he has to show more willingness to block shots on the PK. Okay, I would agree with that. because that's compulsory. That's not even up for debate. The only thing I would say is you might want to chaperone him with a guy like Wheel or Knight or somebody like that. Whoever, just someone who could take a face-off with him because he's still not quite mature in that regard. I mean, that would not make or break me because I think face-offs are really overrated. But on the PK and in the D zone, they are still important to my mind. I think they'll work it out because there's just so much to his game. Like I said, I call him Couturier because he reminds me so much of Couturier in terms of his vision and his ability to see the ice and handle the puck. His details are really good. He makes good decisions with the puck. So what's the fourth line? Dan, that's the real competition. So if we look at the contenders for that fourth line, and I'm throwing Laterra and Weiss out of it. They're extra guys if they're on the team at all. So why don't we say between Lawton, Knight, who else? Raffle.
Wheel.
Those are three guys?
You got Wheel and Lier in there as well. But, I don't know. I think this fourth line battle is going to be pretty interesting. They have a lot of interesting names. I like Michael Raffle, specifically from a hockey point of view. He's not going to chip in a lot of offense, but he is a pretty smart hockey player. I wouldn't mind doing that. Wheel looked good throughout the preseason, so he may make it. I think Lawton is a lock of all of them. I think Lier, we'd mentioned him earlier in the show. I don't really know what to make of Lier or his situation or where he should be. He's probably going to be up. I don't think they're going to risk losing him through waivers as well after they already lost Martel. So I think he may be up as an extra body. But, I think the fourth line is probably going to be Lawton, Wheel, and Raffle is my guess.
Right, yeah. Yeah, they're going to have to work that out with Weiss and Laterra. They simply don't need those guys. The only factor with Weiss is that he's got another year left on his contract. And that prior to this goaltending conundrum, if you want to call it that, could call it a disaster, was really the biggest mistake Ron Hextall made was Dale Weiss' contract. But, so...
Which at the time wasn't bad. I'm going to be honest. At the time he signed Dale Weiss, it wasn't a bad deal. I mean, he was coming off a decent season. I know he was traded, that year and stuff, but it really wasn't a bad signing at all to me. Although that did blow up in his face. But I think Dan is spot on with that fourth line, and I think Laterra finds himself in the AHL, and Lear and Weiss will sit, as healthy scratches. They're not going to send both Dale Weiss and Laterra down. That's not going to happen.
No, you're probably right there. I think that's, if they can't get a deal to get Weiss out of town, then, I would agree with you. Taylor Lear, I mean, I see the value. I like the speed. It's just, just not enough going on when he's on the ice.
Nah, his only other option is PK. And I think that's why the Flyers are, keeping him just in case for that PK. I mean, it's like a Christian Folan situation, PK, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, Folan is a guy who, after PK struggles, he might get some minutes he normally wouldn't because, he does look like the cigar store Indian out there sometimes. He gets pylons. And it's not much going on upstairs, downstairs. He just bangs the puck off the glass.
Earlier in the show, you hit that on here midway through the show was saying that the Flyers were all in on his PK help. And you're right. I mean, you see him mixing and matching, and that was one thing that was, that I brought up in training camp to see if Hacksaw would switch to an aggressive style PK. And, aggressive style 5-on-5, which would filter into a PK, aggressive style. But
yeah, well, like I said earlier, they got to strike a balance with that. Yeah. We'll just have to see where they go with that.
I like Konechny on a PK. I've always said that, and I think Lawton should have an expanded role too on that PK too. I think Lawton and TK should be on it.
I'd love to see Konechny. He has wonderful lateral mobility. His excellent puck instincts.
A
superior stick. And he right, exactly. That that is so important because Dan, you think about it. The Flyers haven't had someone the opposition had to worry about boomeranging the other way since what, Mike Richards?
Yep.
Yeah, probably. It's been a long time since there's been any serious threat
Absolutely.
And that was during the good PK days.
I'd rather be on the PK and go down, being aggressive, and having the other team worry that you could counterattack and catch them flat-footed than just be passive like they were, especially at the second half. And they were just getting killed last year.
Yep.
So hopefully supposedly they'll strike the right balance. We'll have to see what they do.
I hope, because both of those players deserve an expanding role. I think anyway. And with Lawton flourishing on the wing, I wouldn't mess with that right now and put him back to center. That's just my perspective.
I agree. He doesn't. To me, I've never been impressed with his hockey IQ. I think I said on Twitter that Vorobiev has a hockey IQ that is greater than the sum total of Lawton and Wheel together.
Yeah.
So, definitely whatever you have to do to salvage what you can out of Lawton. He does bring speed. He has looked very effective in the roles they put him in. That's fine with me. Jamey, do you have any? We're going to switch this around now because we're really at the mercy of what happens over these last 2 days. Let me get a one-word answer, a yes or a no. Does Ron Hextall either make a trade or make a waiver claim on a goaltender to start the season? Jamey, what say you?
Yes.
Dan?
No.
Okay. I think he's going to do something, but we'll have to see. And
you know why? Because, no offense, but this Gritty situation, there's a lot of pressure, and I hate to bring Gritty up, but, there's a lot of pressure on, the Flyers organization. Do they want to take the next step? You have to get off to a solid start. This young team cannot forego going 0-6 like they did it, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago. And for the past few years, we played, on the back end, catch up, for the past 3 seasons. And you look at us in the playoffs, it wears and tears on them. They cannot afford to play catch up. To me, this is too critical of a situation.
Well, they queued up. They queued up by signing JVR. They meant it more or less sent a message that they're ready to take the next step.
Yes, and they cannot forego it.
No, and not only that. Do you imagine if they started out with Carter Hart and things didn't go well? So not only is their team behind the 8 ball after a slow start, which they definitely do not want to bury themselves in such a competitive conference, but you might have a guy who they're really counting on to be the next thing in goal, and then he's got some things to overcome that necessarily he shouldn't have been put in that position to begin with. That's why I feel that way. But
and 2 or 4 points can make it or break it at the end of the year. You look at it. If Columbus and New Jersey, we say didn't, sat their players, would we have finished in third? Who knows? Who knows what would have happened? Those 2 or 4 points can make it or break it. And like you said, Isaiah, in a tough division, Jersey's looking on the up and up here. Unfortunately, I've been getting a lot of Jersey games on the NHL Network. So I've been listening to the commentators and everything, and they're looking to take the next step.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
I'm just saying, hypothetically, this division is, to me, arguably one of the toughest in hockey. And because you look at it, and every team, maybe with the exception of the Islanders, won't make or should at least be in a battle, for playoff contention.
Yeah, I think that with the Jersey, and Dan, you can comment. The only thing about Jersey, they're going to have to go with improvement via internal growth. They didn't really do much to add any players, and you wonder if some guys caught lightning in a bottle last year.
Yeah, Jersey was one of those teams that I think they're going to hang around, but they didn't add a whole lot, which I was kind of surprised. They didn't try and really kind of build from the outside, but they could reserve. I think Jamey's right. This is going to be a very, very competitive division. I think you can pretty much rule out the Islanders, but everybody else I think has at least a chance to push, and at least is going to be in the wild card race. The Rangers are quote unquote rebuilding, but there's still enough talent on that team to keep them in at least a battle for most of the season. Same goes with Carolina. They made some interesting moves in the offseason, but again, there's enough talent there to at least keep them afloat. But, while you still got teams like Pittsburgh and Washington that are hanging around, and then you got the kind of unknowns in the Flyers, Devils, and Blue Jackets.
Yeah, and the thing is, even if we run into teams that aren't going to make the playoffs, they're going to be competitive enough to play spoiler. Mm-hmm. And teams like Florida this year, barring an injury or some kind of catastrophe, aren't going to miss out. So somebody is going to have to come out, and the Flyers can't be buried by bad decisions with the goaltending to get behind the eight ball. I'm not going to kill that point, but just I'm hoping something will happen. We'll leave it at that. And Jamey,
I think it will. I think it will, Isaiah. We just, we got 2 preseason games left, and I think Hexie is taking this all in, and I like him not making that panic decision, like that. But I think it will be addressed, and that's what Bill and I talked about on the first day of training camp, that the goaltending conundrum was going to be addressed regardless before these injuries started anyway. And I still think that way. I really do. I do. I think it will be addressed because I think they know now that flat out that they cannot rely on Neuwirth this season. And that was quoted in David Isaac's article about a month and a half, 2 months ago in that Q&A that he had with Hexie. And Hexie pointed out in that exact piece saying that Neuwirth's injuries really caused them some disarray last season. It threw him off. And he said, we cannot let that happen again. So in my eyes, he was already thinking, ahead anyway. And that's why I'm not panicking. It's because of that, article that David Isaac came out with.
We'll see, because I tell you, Hexie did not look good in that interview. He looked about as rattled as I've seen him in a while. He looked very sorry.
I mean, he's taking a lot of heat. I mean, they had Gritty earlier. I hate to keep referencing Gritty, but that was a lot of firestorm for the organization. Some people have threatened their season tickets, being taken away because. No, they have. This is real. I'm really not making this up.
Oh my God.
There was it's crazy stuff that was going on that I never thought it was crazy.
Is this a conspiracy? Did a whole bunch of people say that this is the worst day of their lives as well?
I don't know, but I think Hackstall does have a lot of pressure on him, and he knows that he has to give Hackstall that team to even judge Hackstall. He has to have. How can we judge Hackstall? We've talked about this on this, Puckcast. How can you overall judge Hackstall when he hasn't had a complete team?
Well, it could always put Gritty in net. You can't skate, but you just.
And that's why I think it will be addressed is for that reason. I really do.
If we want to judge Hackstall, I know a big Hackstall fan is here with us tonight, and Dan, and I know you caught that expose by Mike Sealski at Philly.com, and Hack is I don't know, he might be the most interesting man alive, Dos Equis.
Yeah, that's how they're painting him to be, the big surfer and likes to be outside and have fun. Listen, I don't care about his personal life. To me, that doesn't mean anything. I don't care how good of a person he is. He's a bad hockey coach. It doesn't matter what you do. It boggles my mind that he's trying to get sympathy like that, but I don't care what he does in his free time. I don't like his coaching style.
That's fine. As long as you're not in that camp that says he doesn't show enough emotion. Because I can tell you, Fred Shiro didn't show a lot of emotion either, and lots of winning coaches didn't show lots of emotion. If you don't like the guy, I understand. I don't think he's a bad hockey coach. I think he's the man of the moment, and when the moment gets bigger, he won't be here. That's the way I look at Dave Hackstall. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over him. Some people just get I don't know, just get almost deranged. But I'm not going to put you in that category, Dan, because you're not one of the gritty people that were complaining. So I do think at the propitious moment, if I could use a big word, Dave Hackstall will be moved on from. They'll bring in a closer like a Hitchcock or a Laviolette type, a guy with a short, shelf life. He'll be here for a couple of years, and they're going to win a cup or not win a cup. Joel Quenneville could be available after this year. You never know.
Yeah.
People have their problems with him. In fact, they have a lot of the same kind of issues with Quenneville, but Quenneville's done it. And, well, we'll see. We'll see. Don't worry about Hack. If you're listening to the show, don't worry about Hack, because when it's time for him to go, believe me, they did it in Los Angeles. They did it here with Stevens. They did it in L.A. with Terry Murray. When the time is right, Hack will be out. Just rest assured. Yeah, well, that's that. But so read the Hack expose. You'll have new appreciation for all the activities, and he might be the world's most interesting man after all.
Uh-huh.
You know what? I'm going to tell you, he's not going anywhere next season. I'm going to be honest, because you know what? I've already had my predictions, and I'm going to be honest. You know, last year I called 102 points, and they finished with 98, and I did say that they would finish in third in the division, and they did. So I think Hack is here to stay. You know.
But you know what? I've been watching this team for 49 years. There is no coach that can't get fired. And if he loses 10 games in a row this year without a completely understandable mitigating circumstances, I think he could get fired. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm never with absolutes, even under the Hextall regime. I tend to agree and lean more in your direction, but I do believe
these guys in the locker room praise the guy.
I know they like him. You know, Dan, that's true.
I mean, TK, I just came out with an interview yesterday. TK loves Hacksaw. Absolutely. And you know what? I know it because I see his emotion when he was talking to me in his eyes. He looked at me dead in the face. He wasn't looking down or nothing. When I asked him, you know, has Hack taken your career to another level? And he
the
really
level is
believes
limiting him to the third line.
No, I'm serious. I mean, he has taken, you know, he has been, you know, benching, you know, TK, you know, and stuff. And TK understands that he's trying to make him a better hockey player. And you hear TK, the way he talks, I need to cut out my turnovers. I need to stop this. I need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
He's really matured.
Let's cut in here. I got to keep it real. Some of the sequences Konechny had toward the end of last year in the Islander game and the Ranger game were some of the worst puck handling, brain dead sequences I've ever seen from a forward. Somebody had to step in and do something now while he's young, impressionable, before he got into the habit of not having to pay for that.
Right.
I got to repeat our buddy Dave Bennett here, what he said. With the young guys that you know are going to be your future, you've got to be tougher because you want to ingrain habits in them that become instinctual. Because if you don't, you're going to have a guy who's turning the puck over all the time, and he's happy just scoring goals. With the other guys and the veterans that people say you're not holding them accountable, well, why? They're a lost cause, that's why. So you keep it positive, and you move on from them, and they're not the future of the team. So I've said that before, but just to get that in there. But that's the way I feel about it anyway. But, gentlemen, we're going to wrap up here. So, Jamey, you're at phillysportsnetwork.com. Our partners, where can people reach you on Twitter?
You can reach me on Twitter at Jamey Baskow or find me on phillysportsnetwork.com. There's a through of articles on there, and just keep pumping out the interviews. We have an interview with Ivan Provorov, Claude Giroux, you know, coming up this week, and our where the Flyers stand, a prediction article for, you know, the upcoming season.
Excellent. And of course, we're going to have someone on next week, our season premiere show, Monday, October 1st. We're going to have a preview. Do we have a late comer to the show?
Chef. Yes, we do. The chef. Sorry about that. Better late than ever, correct?
Yeah, we're just wrapping up here, but you're just in time. I thought you were on a drunken binge. It's good to hear that you're not too tipsy.
Well, I was tweeting all night. If it's not hockey, it's food. So I just did a 5-course German-style Oktoberfest beer dinner. So
where did this happen, by the way? What is the place that we're talking about that people need to go on Route 232 in Southampton, Pennsylvania?
Steam Pub, baby. Steam Pub. We got the best.
Okay.
Almost 90+% scratch kitchen. We do it all here, so it's really good.
Excellent. Got to get those plugs in. And, yeah, I was just saying we're going to have our season preview show next Monday, October 1st. All of our predictions. We're going to have at least one representative from Philly Sports Network, our partners. Chef, just while we have you here, we've obviously covered a lot of territories you can imagine. Any quick thoughts about some of the compelling Flyers news right now?
No. I mean, like, what's compelling, I guess, is, the whole I missed it. I think they sent – who did they send down today? I know
Ove Kubel and Philip Myers.
Okay. Yeah, kind of not like – I guess the Myers was a little bit of a surprise because I thought he played well until the game. I was at the game last night, and I saw the huge feed into the slot, and that wasn't good. So they were setting up somebody else's goal, not one of ours. But other than that, I mean, that was kind of a little bit of a surprise to me. I'm surprised that Knight didn't go down yet. I know he didn't – it's hard to judge him on the line he was on last night. Maybe we'll see a little bit more. But other than that, everything is pretty much going as I suspected it would. And I'm just ready. I'm ready for hockey. I need hockey to start sooner than later.
Yeah. I mean, it's we've been mulling over Hexley's mishandling of the whole goaltending situation. And, I think it was Dan. I forget who it was. I think one of you guys was talking about the real backup plan was Lyon. And when he got hurt, everything went to hell in a handbasket. And Jamey and I predicted that the Flyers are going to make a move of some type, whether it's a waiver claim or anything. Dan doesn't think that's going to be the case. But, Dan professed his love for Dave Haxtell tonight. And, and, I was very surprised. I don't know if, Chef, you saw the expose on Dave Haxtell on Philly.com by Mike Sealski. And he's really the world's most interesting man, and we never knew about it.
I'll tell you what. This is what I think. Goaltending situation, I think they're going to go out and pick up a free agent somewhere or a waiver or something along those lines. If we get to, March, I think that's a fair time to sit there and then judge whether or not Carter Hart can come up or not. But by that time, you should have at least Lyon back. Or if you have to, if it's patchwork, you have to with Stolarz in the meantime. But I honestly do believe that that's not the route they want to take because they're not confident enough in Stolarz either. I think he needs at least 20, 25 games down in the AHL just to get his sea legs back, so to speak. So, that's my opinion of that.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I think Stolarz only played 4 games last year between the ECHL and the AHL. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
But
I want to say this, that Chef will be in the press box on Thursday, and he will be in the locker rooms for post-game interviews afterwards. So if anybody wants to ask, that's the man to ask right there because he's going to have all the answers.
Remember, no rooting. You can't root for your team in the press box.
No, you can't root, but I'll tell you this. He will have the inside on the goaltending conundrum. I'll be at practice on Friday, but Chef will be there Thursday.
Excellent. All right. Well, Dan, you're writing for Phileas Flyer, as always, and you just added a new writer there, a guy who used to be with another outlet. What's the guy's name, John?
John Gove? You got me with the last name. John Gove. John P. Gove on Twitter. Gove. You can look him up. We just brought him in today. He used to be for Flyers Nation. Very exciting hogger, even though I can't pronounce his last name, but that'll come in time.
He's a good dude. Yeah, but he's a really good dude, Dan. You guys got a really good one. I'm happy for you guys.
Yeah, I like John.
I'm serious with that.
Takes.
John is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's good. And don't feel bad about not knowing his name. I listen to FlyersNation.net podcast, and I'll continue to do so, but they couldn't pronounce Johan Gartner's name the whole show. They kept calling him Johan. Hey, Brady, get it together. Come on. Anyway, all right. Well, like I said, Monday, October 1st, we're going to have our season premiere show. We're going to have lots of fun. You can join us then. Just a reminder that we are on 6 platforms right now. We are on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. What's the other one? Google Podcast.
YouTube.
And we are now or if you go to Philly Sports Network YouTube channel, you can catch us there. It's audio only. Thank God for you. And yeah, and I'll tell you, we had such a great response in such a short period of time. It's the most amount of listens we've had in this 2-week plus period ever. Thank you so much. And we'll continue doing what we're doing and try to get better. But until then, this is the O&B Puckcast saying good night. And until next time, next Monday, October 1st, get ready. Take care.